Preciados amigos y amigas, qué alegría que estemos todos juntos aquí en la Iglesia de Todos los Santos. Dear friends, what a joy it is that we are all here together at All Saints Church this morning. It is wonderful to have you here. Before we get to our forum, a couple brief announcements. First is at our Sunday food table today, we gave out 52 boxes of food for Hope Kitchen, and thanks to Erica, Bob, Corey, and Corazon, and everyone who was out at All Saints Church this morning. Thank you to folks who have donated supplies to help out during the rain for the portion of our community in Safe Haven. Just thank you to everyone. Speaking of thank yous and giving back to our community, when this pandemic started, we began to support some of our local organizations with which we have strong ties, and calling them our partners in love, because we want to ensure their good work during these challenging times. We pick a different one every week. And this week, our partner in love is Planned Parenthood of Pasadena and San Gabriel Valley. A couple days ago was the 48th anniversary of Roe v. Wade. And no better reminder that it is incredibly important that we rally around our ministry partners at Planned Parenthood, who provide primary safety net healthcare for many of the most vulnerable people in our community. So going in the chat on Facebook and in the chat on Zoom, there is a link to give. So please click there and join me in giving generously. Now I want to jump to our forum as we continue to move into, oh boy, it's getting close to the 11th month of this pandemic. We know that we need sustenance and we need care, and so much of that is for our spirit. And this is what our Congregational Response Team and our Spiritual Direction Team and many folks at All Saints Church have been working on throughout this pandemic and even before that. And that's what we're going to spend some time with this morning, a chance after a pretty emotional week to take a breath, literally. And so I want to bring Christine Hartman and Staci Kennelly on to talk about spiritual sustenance in these days. And to lead us through just one of the experiences that this team offers. So Christine, I'm just gonna send it over to you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having us this morning. My name is Christine Hartman. My pronouns are she, her, and I serve on the leadership team for the Congregational Response Team, which was formed in the middle of March of 2020. And our mission is to help our community feel connected and cared for. And as this pandemic extended on, we wanted to extend that also to self-care. And that's what this exercise is really about. We started this in September, our first one, which we offered to our Congregational Response Team volunteers, and then started expanding it. And we did one in November, December, and just had one last weekend as well. And offering it to everyone in the community who is able to attend. We've had some folks attend multiple times and have found it to be a different experience every time. And we have found that carving out the normal timing is 90 minutes. We'll be doing a truncated version today, but carving out that 90 minutes for yourself can be very, very valuable, especially during these times of stress. And as this time continues to prolong isolation. So I do want to say, if you have a chance to grab a pen and a notebook or some paper, that will be needed for the exercise coming up. And none of this could be possible without the generosity of Staci Kennelly, who's the coordinator of spiritual direction here at All Saints, and who has been so generous in sharing her gifts with us in this work. And so I would love to hand it over to Staci to get us started this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Staci, and my pronouns are she, her. And I thought before we begin, we would just do a short prayer to just kind of settle all of us. In this moment, oh God, we turn to you. May the ebb and flow of our thinking settle into stillness. May each burden we carry be released into your love. May the cycles of our breathing restore a spaciousness within. May we listen gently enough to touch the hem of your presence. Amen. So I am going to lead you through a spiritual position or location exercise. It's going to have 3 movements. In the first movement, I'm going to invite you to just notice your life in a systematic and global way. In the second movement, we will be looking at what you have written with a Lectio Divina type style, prayerfully reviewing the things that you noticed, seeing what stood out to you, and seeing what shimmers. In the third movement, we're going to invite you to consider how you can respond to these things with love and curiosity. During that time, when we do this exercise together on Saturdays, we usually go into small groups. But today, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. As we do this prayer exercise, I'm going to encourage you to go slow and to avoid self-editing. You're not going to be able to write down the wrong thing about yourself. You know you. Ask yourself before you write, is what I'm about to say true? We want to avoid writing what we think might be the correct answer and instead writing what is our truth. I know this one can be hard. It can be hard for me, but try to notice without self-judgment. Try to approach this exercise with grace, compassion, and curiosity. And also try to distinguish clearly between your thoughts and your feelings. So when you're having a thought, acknowledge that. When you're having a feeling, try to think of those feeling words. And then lastly, distinguish between desire and duty. So we want to write down what our heart's desires are and not what we think we ought to be doing. Okay, let's begin together. So in this first movement, you're going to look at 6 aspects of your life. And I just want you to remind you, keep your responses brief, authentic, and unedited. So the first thing I want you to write down is the number 1. So the first aspect is the given facts of your life. These are things that no one could argue about. Sorry, my screen just went away. So that might be things like your work requires you to work 50 hours a week, or that you are caring for your aging parents. These are just the facts of life. Lord, help us to see the undeniable realities of our life. Take your time. You will have 3 minutes to answer each aspect. You have 1 more minute. Good, let's go to our second aspect. So write a number 2 on your paper. The second aspect is the preoccupations of your mind. So these are things that you've been thinking a lot about. Examples might be, I've been thinking about the conditions in my workplace, or I've been trying to figure out how to, Lord, give us the grace to notice what is occupying our minds. It will give you 3 minutes. One more minute here. Good. So as we return, let's write a number 3 on our paper. And the third aspect is the movements of your heart or the emotions you are currently experiencing. So examples here might be, I felt anxious about how far behind I am, or I have been enjoying my 2 young children. I have felt grateful for our new home, or I've been very angry with my boss. Lord, give us the grace to notice our prevalent emotions. One more minute here. Good. The fourth aspect is the condition of your body, especially right now. So examples here might be, I have been feeling sleep deprived, I have a headache, or I've been feeling more alive and energetic. Lord, give us the grace to know the condition of our body, especially right now. One more minute here. Good. On to the fifth aspect. So you can write a number 5 down. So the fifth aspect is, what question would you like to ask God with the intention of it being answered? Could be just 1 to 2 very short sentences. So I invite you to close your eyes, relax, take a deep breath. Picture being seen by God. Now, with anticipation, ask your question. One more minute here. Good. So for the sixth aspect, you can write a number 6. The sixth aspect is your longings and your desires. So these are things that you might finish the sentence, I wish I had. try to be honest here. Lord, help us name what we have been wanting and longing for. One more minute here. Good. Now we are going to move on to the second movement. We are going to review these 6 aspects, but we're going to look at them in a more global and sweeping way. You are going to have 15 minutes to do this part, so please take your time. Please don't rush through it. As you go through and read all of your statements, I encourage you to read them from beginning to end, beginning with 1, ending with 6. And just kind of notice what pops out to you. Maybe even pausing briefly in between each aspect, giving yourself a little time to sit with it. And ask, are there any global observations? Is there anything in particular that you notice as you read your statements? What stands out to you? What shimmers? I encourage you to mark this up almost as if you were editing it, to make notes, circle words that you are noticing that you're repeating, or emotions that keep coming up again and again. For example, if you've said fear a lot, make a note of that. So we're just going to look at this for 15 minutes. Christine is going to play some music to just kind of calm us, and I'll see you again in 15 minutes, okay? May God be with you. have one more minute here. Okay, as we come back to each other, this would be a time when we do this exercise together that we would usually have you guys break out into small groups of 2 to 3, sometimes 4 people, depending on how many participants we had, and just kind of unpack what came up for you and talk to them about it. This would also be the time that I offered, and I'm offering to anyone watching now too, that if you wanted to have some time with the spiritual director and just kind of talk about what came up for you, I will be happy to meet with anyone. My email is going to be in the chat. Just email me and I'll be happy to make an appointment in the next couple of weeks so we can go over what maybe came up with for you. And then also I might be able to help you with practices. Any directee of mine knows one of the first questions I ask when I see spiritual directees is, are you practicing your practice? I think it's really important that we learn from our teachers and practice our practice. So yeah, I would love to, Christine and I will be happy to answer some questions now as we finish up this time, if anybody has any questions.
Staci, while we're waiting for questions, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about spiritual direction and what the purpose of it is. I grew up Lutheran, and in fact, I think my parents are here somewhere who raised me Lutheran, my Lutheran pastor dad. And you know, to my knowledge, spiritual direction really wasn't a tradition in the Lutheran tradition, but I first heard about it when I came to All Saints. And I'm wondering if you can just give us an overview of what spiritual direction is, how people utilize it, for those who don't know.
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. So spiritual direction is it's a companion to go with you in this life journey. Someone that supports you, helps you find threads in your life. I know a lot of times when I meet with directees, they'll chat for 15 or 20 minutes and say, I don't think I've said anything. And I said, oh no, wait, what about this? And so one visual I have of spiritual direction is, you know, in life, you're just kind of walking through life through a forest, and a spiritual director is just maybe to say, hey, did you notice that? Hey, did you notice we walked around this tree a couple times? Or even sometimes, you know, as you're going through life, you can say, I feel like I'm stuck in a spot. And sometimes a spiritual director can point out how much growth you've actually had in the last 6 months or year. So I think, you know, as a spiritual director, I don't like to say a guide, but more of a companion to go through life with.
Great. We do have a question in the chat from Monique. It's a great question. Once you've identified the global observations and what shimmers there, how do you move forward? What's next after that?
That's a great question. So what do we do next? I would love to talk to Monique more, so please email me. I think that depends. So if you're noticing that you have a lot of self-judgment, self-loathing, we might want to find some practices where you your goodness for a bit. If you're noticing you're having a lot of anxiety, you might want to find some practices that calm you down, that you can learn how to calm yourself down, maybe some meditation practices. Sometimes there's been a couple times, I'm going to be honest, I've done this exercise by myself, and sometimes what comes up is I'm more grateful for my life when I take a pause than I am on the daily. You know, I'm going through life sometimes and you're busy and you're not noticing the goodness of life. So for me, sometimes when I do this, it might even be, wow, I really need to bring gratitude into my daily practice more often. So for me, it might be just what practice can I do that will help enhance or relieve any tensions I'm having? That's a great question.
Thank you. Thanks, Monique, for that question. Maria also has a question.
That's
How often do you recommend practicing today's exercise?
It's a great question. Well, I would love to have everyone with us every month. We do it once a month. Next in February, it's going to be the 20th. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
The 20th at 4 o'clock. So we would love to have you there. I think a month is a great amount of time for this practice. It really does help you check in with yourself. There's other practices that I recommend. One app that I think is fabulous when it comes to practices is Pray As You Go. It's free. And it has so many prayer practices in that app. It's unbelievable. I mean, don't tell Pray As You Go, but if it cost, $100 a year, I'd pay it. It's a fantastic app. Yes, I see John's said spiritual direction could be helpfully described as holy listening. Yes, I've also heard it described as a spiritual midwife. Someone that's there to just guide that birth process for you. That's great. Yeah. Oh, I appreciate you too, Ben.
Staci, I wanted to just share. First of all, thank you for this. This was just amazing to do it together, even though we don't have the sharing time, today with each other. But I think one of the things that my experience with spiritual direction has helped me with is, I don't know, there's something about having someone listen and observe with you that helps you notice. And that's been true for me, help me notice. And also, sometimes to have, confidence in those things. I remember my first experience with group spiritual direction was that you're going to be doing in Lent, wonderful, but was they asked, what do you seek? And very quickly, which doesn't always happen to me, the word presence came to my mind, and I stuck with it. But at that point in time, I had no idea what, why that was significant, and that unfolded, over the next 3 or 4 days. But anyway, so that's, I'm just so thrilled that you're doing this, and
thank you so much.
It's really powerful that way.
Yeah, and speaking of spiritual direction, I am so excited for Lent. I'm going to be offering group spiritual direction. So I'm sure there'll be, I'll be posting more information about that in the future too. But if you're interested in that, go ahead and email me. It's probably going to need to be 6 to 8 people for that. If I have, more people wanting to do it, I'll be happy to lead 2 groups through that. But we'll be doing group spiritual direction during Lent. And I think that's helpful. It's a good way to have a little bit of a taste. And then also with what Sally was saying, a lot of spiritual direction is listening. And so it's beautiful to learn how to listen like that, to have that holy listening. I also saw that Tom asked a very good, I don't know if I have an answer for this. How do you distinguish what is a calling versus an interest in one's professional life? Yeah, vocation is big, isn't it? Thomas Merton has a great book on vocation. I can't recall the title right now. I don't know. I think that's a lifetime journey there, isn't it? And it changes. I mean, I feel like spiritual direction is my second job. My first job was my kids. So I think that's something that you would have to work out with a spiritual director.
And this is another good question, Staci. Is there a team of spiritual directors at All Saints? How does that work at All Saints? Like if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I would like a spiritual director," what's the structure like at All Saints with that?
Yes, we have 20 amazing spiritual directors at All Saints. Something for everybody. I feel like, because that's another thing. It's like finding a good therapist. You have to find someone that fits with you, that meshes with you. And so we have some great spiritual directors. Again, email me and I'll sit down with you. It usually takes 30 minutes to 40 minutes. We sit down, we kind of go over all the spiritual directors and what their specialties are. And I just kind of help you, connect you with one. And what I usually suggest is that you pick 2 or 3 spiritual directors and then you meet with them and you spend time with them so you can tell if, you guys click or not. But yeah, we have some great spiritual directors at All Saints.
And the follow-up question there from Karen is, how does one become a spiritual director? What is that path?
Yeah, so you would go to school. Usually school's 3 years long. First, you find a spiritual director. Usually to attend spiritual direction school, you do need to have a spiritual director. And it's usually 2 to 3 years long, and then you receive a certificate. And all of the spiritual directors that I have on our All Saint list are certified spiritual directors. And not all of them attend necessarily All Saints, which I do think is nice, because sometimes you don't want to see someone necessarily that you'll see on Sundays. Some people do, everyone's different. But if you're concerned that there might be, you might want to go outside of All Saints, we have those too.
And another thing, Mary asked about the brief tips on what to do with the observations, which you mentioned in response to Monique's question. But Mary, I would also say, email Staci, and Staci can help you kind of wrap that up for you. So Staci has been very generous in sharing her time in that way. So
yeah.
And can you say the prayer app again, Staci?
Yes. Pray as you go. Pray as you go. It's a great app. It has the lectionary in there. So every morning, that's what I do while I unload the dishwasher, is I listen to that. It has the examine in it. It has imaginative prayer in it. It's a beautiful app.
Let's see. Also, if there's anybody who has done this exercise before with us, it would be great if you want to put in the chat what your experience has been with that, and we can share that, because I think it might be interesting for folks to hear, not just from the people who actually kind of lead it, but also those who have experienced it themselves.
Yeah.
You experienced it this morning, obviously, but those who have experienced it, especially multiple times.
We did experience the shortened version this morning. So usually you have 5 minutes with each aspect, which I feel like I would have enjoyed that too. Even this morning, I felt time crunched. And then you do have 20 minutes of the time alone, which I think is good. I think it's good anytime you do any type of journaling practice to go longer, to go past that boredom phase. I hope you know what I mean. So you're journaling, you're like, okay, that's all I have to say. I encourage you to sit a little longer. Maybe even set a timer for 2 more minutes and see what else comes up, because sometimes there's stuff underneath there.
And we're trying to figure out how to, I'll be posting the slides so that you can see what all those aspects were, so that if you want to spend some more time with that. And then Staci, could you just do a really quick review of what those 1 through 6 aspects are?
Oh, yeah.
Just really,
yeah. So the first aspect is the given facts of your life, just the facts of life. The second aspect is the preoccupations of the mind. So what you keep thinking about, that's the mind aspect. The next one is your heart, the emotions that you're experiencing. The next is your body, how your body is feeling. The next aspect is, what do you long for? That's a good question. And the sixth aspect, the fifth aspect is what you would like to ask God for. And the sixth aspect is what you long for. Oh, and I see, yes, Sandy has done it 3 times. Mm-hmm.
You want to share what she says about it?
Yeah, so Sandy is sharing here. I have done it 3 times. Each time is different for me. Also, the sharing at the end is wonderful for me, mainly because, I discover how much we have in common. Yes, with anxieties, questions, and gratitudes. Yes, I'm grateful for today, for what info to do next once you have found, what your preoccupation is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is definitely different. And I think I saw up here too, Jim asked a great question. I'm not sure I'd be comfortable sharing what I've learned about myself in a group. Yeah, you don't have to. Christine and I have actually noticed that after the 20 minutes is over, we usually lose about 10% of you, and that's okay. My daughter actually is one of the people that has done this exercise, and she also is that it's a hard time thing for her too. Some of us are private. That's okay. I think that's why I offer the an hour. If you would like to meet with me for an hour, it can just be one-on-one, and then you don't have to share in a group. I totally get that. But I think, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Staci. I'm sorry.
I think what Sandy said though is true, and I think that's why I do like the group. Is you're not alone. What you're feeling is usually what everybody else is feeling. All of us deep down are usually pretty much the same. We're all wondering if we're good. We're all wondering if our mistakes were too big. We're all a little afraid of what tomorrow might look like. And so I think sometimes when we meet together, it kind of helps go, okay, yeah, I'm at least normal, whatever normal is.
Yeah, and I love what Ben said here, finding it helpful to wake up to patterns and being intentional and present. And also, he says, when we shared as a group in a prior session, it provided a supportive space to be vulnerable and helped cement the insights, which is also helpful. And Ellen, too, has found this completely different each time attending. So thank you for sharing that. And Dawn has a question here about a partnership between ASC and Still Point, and how do they synergize?
Yeah, I actually just had a meeting 2 weeks ago. We're trying to work that out. I would love to have a way that Still Point and All Saints can work together. They have so many things. If you don't know, I wish I had Still Point's website here, but if you really do search Still Point, they actually offer group spiritual direction on their website all year round. I suggest that, but Still Point is the local spiritual direction. They have a school for if you want to become a spiritual director there. It really is a great group of people there. Today's session, I found it worked the same way I choose truths about religion. Yeah. We explored 6 different bins of perception, and then I found there was some things in common. Yeah. And some were the gems. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that, John, I feel the same way about this. It's interesting to me when you look at your body as one, whole thing, instead of sometimes we separate how we're feeling emotionally, how our soul is, and how our mind and body feel. And I feel like this exercise is really good at bringing it all together.
So we've got about 5 minutes left. Sally, is there anything that you want to chime in about this whole thing?
Oh, I'm so grateful and excited that you guys are doing this, and that ability to ground ourselves in God's presence, right? Our ability to be in God's presence and able to be honest and reflect on our experience like that is so powerful. I really do believe that Jesus, it's not my original idea, but that Jesus was, a mystic. Jesus was a Jewish mystic. And, you know, those verses about abiding, you know, in God's love. And I think also, you know, this way that it is an accompanied experience. You know, we are exquisitely relational, right? And there are things and capacities also spiritually, you know, that are enabled in us by, you know, communion and companionship, you know, and someone with us in a journey. And so I'm just really thrilled and grateful for your ministry, you, both of you. And yeah, it's, you know, it's incredibly important to our health and wholeness and well-being. Yeah. Yeah, I was also thinking, you know, the spiritual direction program here at All Saints is, it's really good. The directors are good, and Staci's a wonderful, you know, wonderful leader. And, you know, there are also experiences sometimes available that are interfaith. And I don't know if people are interested, you know, in that, but Staci may be aware of those, and I'm aware of those. I've had a rabbi as a spiritual director and a Sufi woman leader, and at different points in my life. That's one of the great things about spiritual direction too, you know. Yes. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We did have a question about if we have any recordings to share after this one. We do not record our monthly ones. Those are not in webinar format, they're in meetings format. So we don't record those just for privacy and stuff like that. But this will be available, and I will be posting the slides, the PDF slides, on the All Saints public Facebook page so that you can access those if you want refreshers about the questions or would like to do some more reflection. So those will be going up shortly, just so you know. Any other questions before we throw it over to Mike? Well, I'd like to thank everybody for being here this morning. And of course, would love to thank Staci for leading us through this morning.
Thank you, Christine. Yeah, and you always have my back. I'm so thankful for our partnership. I love you madly.
And I want to say thank you to all three of you. Thank you so much for not just this morning, which was phenomenal, but what you continue to give to the All Saints community, all three of you, Christine, Staci, and Sally. Thank you so much. And again, if you would like to get involved with spiritual direction, something that I do, I have a spiritual director. I recommend it highly. I have a therapist and a spiritual director. They're two different people. It's two different things. And I recommend both of them highly. And so just thank you. And Sally, one more time, or any one of you, can you just let people know if someone is interested in spiritual direction one more time, what should they do?
They should email me, and my email is there in the chat. Please email me, stacilee72@icloud.com. I'll be happy to set you up with someone.
Wonderful. So we're going to take a little pause. The 11:15 service will start in about 6 minutes. You can still jump into Children's Chapel if you have children in your home, or over to the Meditative Chapel where Amy Brenneman is leading. Next Sunday in the forum, thrilled to have Rabbi Ken Chasen of Leo Beck Temple. And Rabbi Ken will also be preaching at our 11:15 service. Leo Beck Temple has been a longtime partner and friend of All Saints Church back to the days of George Regas and Leonard Bierman. And I inherited a wonderful friendship with Ken from Ed Bacon. And we're going to talk about the history of All Saints Church and Leo Beck Temple, and do a little dreaming about where our two congregations might be called together to work in the future. And then the next Sunday, Jessica Jackley, the founder of Kiva, will be here and talking about what is happening with her and with Kiva, particularly looking at how the pandemic is influencing and affecting the sharing economy, which is what Kiva is with microloans that you can make. So all that's coming up in the next couple weeks. We're going to take a pause for a couple minutes and we'll be back for the 11:15 service. So see you in a few.